Hi everybody, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing well today. I wanted to come on to share an update to my Tarot and Oracle deck collection playlist that I have going. In this video, I am going to share all of the decks that I added to my collection in 2022. I have 20 in total, 11 Tarot and 9 Oracle. And I do realize it is a bit late to be posting this. I've had a bunch of technical difficulties with my iPad, and this is the first day that it's back up and running. So I wanted to make this to kind of close out the energy of the previous year, to update you all, and then moving forward, I do finally intend on filming review videos for several of these that are mentioned. Yeah. I keep promising them. I really do want to do them. For me, I take so much time and energy to do research for those videos that it's a lot more effort for me than just going through and kind of sharing a list or sharing my responses to a tag that's going around in the community. So rest assured that they are coming, and this is going to be the last long form deck list that you will see for quite a while. So with all that being said, I encourage you to grab some water, grab a cup of tea, and we are going to dive into these together. So the first deck that I added to my collection was the Omer Oracle. This is by Nomi Lam and Tayama Sher. Tayama is also the creator of the Haga deck that I have in my Oracle deck collection video from 2022. Now this deck is intended to aid a practitioner in the practice of counting the Omer. It's the 49-day period in between Passover and Shavuot on the Jewish calendar, and it's tradition to meditate on the energies of the Sefirot on the Tree of Life as they relate to one another. So the breakdown of this, you can see there are the names of the Sefirot that are in relationship on the top of the card and keywords further defining that energy. And then there's an overall word that captures the theme to meditate on for the day. I really enjoy this deck. I think that it's well done. I love the vibrant color scheme. I have not made my way through the entire Omer as it's intended, but that is one of my personal spiritual goals for the new year. And the deck does come with additional cards for the other Sefirot, which are not part of the counting practice. These are the more ethereal, intangible elements of the divine, whereas the Omer is really focused on the lower part of the Tree of Life and capturing those relationships. But it is a really, really great tool, and I'm excited to use it more. Next is the Asherah Tarot. This was one of my favorite decks of last year. It is the new 3rd edition in the full tarot size. This deck is a Thoth clone, however, the energy is very feminine, very floral and vibrant. I find that this is a great deck for spiritual work, for connecting with divinity. I really enjoyed using it during Passover, during Shavuot, during those spring festivals on the Jewish calendar, and I intend for it to continue to be a staple of my personal practice going forward. Next is the Marigold Tarot. I've wanted this deck for a really, really long time. It is very simple. It's black and white and gold. There is a lot of animal energy and also a lot of plant energy in the deck. And the guidebook really goes into the symbolism behind each of these plants and their indigenous uses in India, which I really appreciate. As much as I love the artistry and the history and the care and intention that went into this deck, I found that it is not the best reader for me personally. And that is because I find that the energy of this deck is very blunt. Not every single deck needs to be comforting. Not every single deck needs to kind of, I don't know, be a hug deck or to be a very gentle reader. But I found that this one was very harsh and very blunt. And instead of being able to provide clear advice on what to do in a situation. It really just mirrored back kind of the darkest aspects of it. So I want to take my time to just sit with this deck to get to know it on its own terms, as opposed to using this as a general reader or for general kind of spiritual work, because that very much is not the direction that it wanted to go in for me last year. Next is the Sacred India Tarot. I love this deck. It is so beautiful, but I have not read with it yet. And that is because this deck is based off of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, which are two of the most famous Hindu epics. And I wanted to reread those myths and to take notes with this deck in order to get to know it better. It also has a wonderful 350-page guidebook where it goes in a lot of detail about each of the figures that are depicted, all of the symbolism in the artwork. So this is very much a study deck for me, but I'm very glad to have it in my collection. It's a great gateway to learn more about Hinduism, about its theology and its culture. It's just all around really, really beautiful. And another one that feels just very intentionally and wonderfully crafted. So that is the Sacred India Tarot. Next is another one of my favorite decks of the year. This is the Spiral Oracle. I love this deck because it is so profound and wise. The artwork is very visionary. It really feels like you are on a trip or that you are entering into a dreamscape. But it's also incredibly well-rounded. It can read for all aspects of life. There's a great balance of light and shadow, both in the artwork itself and also in the accompanying guidebook. And I find that the keywords and the meditations offered in the guidebook really do enhance the imagery. It's great to read on its own, and it's also been absolutely wonderful to pair with different decks like the Asherah Tarot. Next, we have a bit of left field pick for me. So I did end up getting the Isis Oracle this year by Alana Fairchild. Now, Alana Fairchild is a creator who I certainly have a lot of respect for, but her decks don't normally resonate with me. In the case of the Isis Oracle, there is a lot of New Age kind of starseed language in the guidebook, whereas I would have liked to see more of that focus on Egyptian mythology and Egyptian history, which is just so rich on its own. I often question why there is that starseed relationship with ancient civilizations of color, like Egypt or like the ancient Mayans, when these are absolutely rich histories and cultures that can stand on their own. But that being said, I actually really do like the energy of this deck. It feels very empowering, it feels very loving, and I do think that Isis, kind of as a character within the deck, is very multifaceted, and there's a good balance of light and shadow. So this is one that, while it's not my favorite to work with, it has given me a lot of wonderful insight into my personal practice, just my personal readings with it. And then I also got the Kali Oracle by Alana Fairchild, and this deck is actually so deep and so well researched. Unlike the Isis Oracle, like, she really did an amazing job talking about the history of Kali and also representing the many different facets, the many different manifestations of the goddess, as well as providing a wonderful primer into Shakti devotional mysticism, which is the divine feminine branch of Hindu theology. I was really blown away by the guidebook, but just the energy of working with this deck as well was really wonderful. So I would recommend this, just like with the Sacred India Tarot, as a great gateway point if you are interested in learning about the many just many wonderful, nuanced, and complex teachings within the Hindu tradition. Just really, really great. Very impressed with this oracle. Next, we have a few decks that are out of print, but that you can pretty readily find on the secondhand market. The first is the Dante Tarot. This is by Lo Scarabeo. It's published in the early 2000s. And this is inspired by the man himself, Dante Alighieri, and the Divine Comedy, which is one of my favorite works of literature of all time for many reasons. So I had wanted this deck for a while and was very pleased to pick it up. So the major arcana are inspired by both the traditional Rider-Waite ordering of the cards, but it also goes into examining different types of angels and different types of virtues that were very common in Christian writings of Dante's time. And then if we skip ahead to the minor arcana, all of the suits have been updated. The suit of bricks talks about Dante's life in Florence and some of the events that led to his political exile and the inspiration for him writing the Divine Comedy. And then we get into the actual art itself. So the Suit of Flames is a retelling of the Inferno. Really, it follows like beat for beat all of the points within the book. And then we get to Clouds, which is Purgatorio. Same thing, following each canticle of the poem of the book. Next is Lights, which is Paradiso, and the culmination of that journey. So really like the full ascent from the depths of hell into the spheres of heaven, and the final encounter with the divine face of God itself. So I have not done any readings with this. I have actually reread the Divine Comedy over the last few months, and I've been taking notes, like correlating all of the verses to the actual cards and comparing how they were depicted, how accurate it is, for a full review video that I am planning on uploading very soon. So that's been my passion project. In case anybody was wondering, I am just so fascinated by tarot as text itself, like as a form of media, and how well this media adaptation of the Divine Comedy through the lens of tarot actually is in reality. Anyways, moving on. Next is the Fantastical Tarot. This is another out-of-print deck, but this was originally mass market through US Games, and it's easy to come across. I love the energy of this deck. This is another of my favorites of the year. It is my go-to now for dream working because it has such a wonderful storybook element to it. All of the characters are very dynamic. There is great movement. And when you lay it out in a spread, it really just leaps off of the table. It really comes to life, and it takes me to that subconscious place, that dream world place, where I'm able to better understand the symbolism that comes to me through my dreams. So I love this deck. It's very dark. It's kind of gothic. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but this is certainly one of my new all-time favorites. And then I also picked up the Londa Tarot, which is another out-of-print US Games deck. This one has kind of some similarities to the Fantastical Tarot. The premise of this deck is that all of the characters that are depicted are actually actors on a stage, and each card is like a scene in a play. So I found this to be really wonderful for creative work, for brainstorming, for writing, for songwriting, and other projects that are very close to my heart. So really enjoy the energy of this deck. This is more character focused as opposed to being more movement focused or kind of scenic focused like the Fantastical Tarot. But I do again, enjoy this energy as well. Next is probably one of the most unique decks in my collection. This is not a oracle deck so much as it is an art deck, although it kind of is intended to be used as both. This is also huge, so hopefully we can get this in frame. But this is the Sacred Mirror cards by Alex and Allison Gray, and these are full color paintings that are on their Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. And there's a lot of nudity in this, so hang on one second. Let me backtrack. So the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors is a kind of universal art project that the Greys started kind of as an effort to be able to synthesize different world religious philosophies and to try to promote world peace and cultural exchange. The art is absolutely fantastic. I have been a huge fan of their work for a while. And then each card does have the name of the painting, the dimensions of the painting. It has a poem and it has a keyword for reflection. So you could use it as an oracle, but I found that it's not effective that way. These are most effective for meditation. So I do intend to have these out kind of displayed in my sacred space. There are images of certain bodhisattvas, of Jesus, again, different religious figures around the world, but also the glorification of the human body. And so there are depictions of like just different layers, like the skeleton, the muscles, the lymphatic system, and different genders and races are also featured in the deck. So that is the Sacred Mirror Oracle cards. Next is the Animal Spirit Oracle. And this deck I got for $5 at a flea market in Oklahoma. And like, this is really like the depths of the Bible Belt here. So anytime I see anything tarot or oracle focused, I just have to pick it up. This, of course, is an animal deck. The meaning of the card and information about each animal is on the back, along with keywords for learning. I really love the artwork of this deck. I think it works great as a clarifier to tarot. I will say the one thing that this deck suffers from is collapsing all North American indigenous traditions into one monolith. So instead of naming the specific tribe that a myth is from, it'll just say North American Indian, which, you know, we've thankfully evolved past that in 2023. But I do really love the visionary nature of this artwork. It's absolutely stunning, and it has a very wise and grounded energy to it. There also is a fair bit of diversity in terms of the different myths that are presented and inspiration from different kinds of art from around the world. It's just, again, that collapse of indigenous cultures into a monolith that doesn't sit well with me, but very beautiful. So that is the Animal Spirit Oracle. Next is the I Am One Tarot. This is another deck that I've wanted for a very long time. I have the art card here. This is very unique. So all of the suits have been changed, and all of the majors have been changed to different Jungian archetypes. You have the name of the archetype above, and then you have an affirmation, an I am statement. So we have the Stone of Age as a suit, Two-Headed Serpent as a suit, Curved Blade, and then Pair of Tears. They all kind of correspond with the traditional like tarot meaning. I do really enjoy the artwork of this. It's largely non-representational artwork, so you can really focus on the emotion and the energy and the movement of a particular spread. And this deck is 100% shadow work for me. This is another deck that really helps me to peel back the layers of a situation and to look at how I am really feeling on the inside. It's absolutely beautiful. and one that does require a lot more study. So I'm gonna really sit with this and devote some intentional journaling and meditation time in the next year. Next is the Intuition Oracle. This is by the same couple who did the Enchanted Tarot. This is another deck that is inspired by archetypes. So we have the name of the archetype and an affirmation on the back. The guidebook goes into a lot more detail in regards to all of the symbolism on the cards. Like the Enchanted Tarot, this is another collage deck that's made with fabric. These are all tapestries that the artists have created together. This is another one of my favorites for the year. I paired this with just about every tarot I could think of. It's very deep. It's very rich. It's another one that is just perfect for deep inner work and for providing a kind of actionable next step after a reading. So really love working with this. Next is the Xultun Mayan Tarot. Oh my goodness, I can't even speak anymore. Another one of my favorite decks. This is, of course, inspired by Mayan mythology and Mayan culture. It is deliberately made to look like a Mayan codex, and they did a really incredible job. This is an older deck that was originally published in the 1970s, but it offers such a great deep dive into Mayan history and religion. All of the glyphs are actual signs and actual words in written Mayan, which is just absolutely incredible. I love the colors of this, and even though it is very stylistic, this deck is true to the Rider-Waite-Smith system, and you can read it as a standard tarot without adding on any of the extra symbolism. It's great all around for work, for life, for personal readings. Just absolutely love this deck. And I'm very excited, again, to continue studying with it, like so many others on this list. Next is the Primordial Tarot by Los Scarabeo. This deck is actually a reprint on the new Los Scarabeo thicker cardstock, and it is borderless. I got this deck because I have been working on a genealogy project with my family and have been looking into different ways of ancestral veneration. And I've seen the concept of working with ancestors from prehistory pop up a lot in these circles. And I thought that this deck would be beautiful to devote to that practice. It is very raw. It is very confronting. A lot of these images are violent, but it speaks to kind of a different time, kind of just like the formation of society and the shadows that live within all of us, despite the distance in time and space. So really have been enjoying working with this deck. This is one that is, again, very deep and very reflective. Very good for shadow. Now we are in the home stretch. The next one is the Outgrow Yourself Tarot and Oracle, another one of my favorites of the year. This is an updated Thoth clone that retains the keywords of the Thoth deck, but adds different questions, prompts, and affirmations. This deck is bold, fiery, feminine. It's really, like, I would contrast this with the Marigold Tarot and say that this is also an incredibly blunt deck, but it's like a motivating kick in the pants. It really pushes you to outgrow your limitations, as the name says, and to take back your own power and agency in your life. Absolutely love this, and I do intend to film a review video for this as well. Next is the Iris Oracle. This is probably another one of my favorite oracles, and I would even go as far to say it's all time. This deck is so wonderful and deep. It's great for connecting with inner child work. The guidebook is short but incredibly detailed, provides a lot of insight into the different symbols on these cards, And this deck pairs well with everything. I've really, really enjoyed using it in conjunction with tarot, and it's part of my daily practice at this point. Just love journaling with this, and definitely doing that deep inner work. Another favorite. The next and the last tarot on this list is the Somnia Tarot by Nicholas Bruno. I followed the creation of this deck in 2020, and I'm so happy to finally have it in my collection. This is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. However, these are all photographed images. With very few exceptions, there's no Photoshop in this deck. Like, these are scenes that he went out and staged in his backyard in New England, and it is absolutely phenomenal. So deep. This is a very clear reader. It gets the message across in a very succinct and powerful way. So few words with this deck, but it goes very deep. It's great for all around situations, but another one that can offer very profound insight. I just love the atmosphere of this. Yeah, I really don't have any more words for this. This is just absolutely amazing and evocative. And then the very last deck and the last oracle is the Botanical Inspirations Oracle. I picked this deck up in Portland, Maine this year at a museum of all places, and I really, really enjoy it. I love the keywords. It has quotes on the bottom from famous poets like Rainer Maria Rilke. And this deck is really great for relationship dynamics, particularly around friends and family. I really enjoy that there is a good balance of light and shadow, and there are keywords on here that are not typical of other oracles. Like, let me try to find a good one. Like, thankfulness for understanding is so profound to me. Or immersion. This is one that I haven't paired with a lot of tarot, but I think that it would go very well. I primarily used this with the Hardy Tarot, and that was like my bread and butter this past winter. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, this is one that is very accessible. It's a very good entryway into reading with Oracle, but it has a lot of profound wisdom to share. So that was a look at all of the decks that I added to my collection in the past year. Let me know what you think. If you also have any of these decks and you've enjoyed working with them, let me know what your experience was like. And do let me know if there are any that you would like me to do a more detailed review and walkthrough of. Dante Tarot is coming, Outgrow Yourself and Iris Oracle are coming. And I also am going to talk about some more mass market decks that are older in my collection, but that are very near and dear to my heart in the next few weeks. So as always, I hope that you are doing very well, and I am sending you much love and many blessings. Bye.